He walked into the kitchen with a grin and said, "I've got news." The next thing I knew, I was packing my things, but not for the reason you'd think. Please stay with me as I tell you my story, and please do not forget to support our channel by subscribing, liking, and sharing with your loved ones. My name is Jenna. I was married for 7 years to Derek, a man I truly believed would stand by me forever. We didn't have a perfect life, but we had love, or so I thought. We just celebrated our anniversary a week before. Nothing felt off. He kissed me goodnight every day and said he loved me like always. Then, one morning, he came into the kitchen smiling like a kid on Christmas morning. He told me he had some big news. He'd bought a lottery ticket with his co-workers on a whim, and they won. He, personally, would be getting $9 million after taxes. I was stunned, but happy for him. I hugged him and told him this could change our lives for the better. That same evening, everything changed. He didn't come home for dinner. I tried calling. No answer. The next day, I came home from work and found the locks changed. I thought we had been robbed. Then I saw a man in a uniform handing me a thick envelope, divorce papers. Inside was a cold letter saying he'd moved on, that I needed to move out immediately, and that he'd make sure I got something small to help me start over. I stood outside our house, shocked, with my heart breaking in pieces. Just like that, the man I loved became someone I didn't recognize. He didn't even speak to me face to face. No warning, no explanation. He had just won millions, and his first move was to throw me out like I meant nothing. I didn't even have time to cry. I was too confused. I packed my things and stayed with a friend that night. My mind kept going in circles. Why would he do this? Why so suddenly? But in all that pain, something strange gave me strength. A small memory. Something I was sure Derek had forgotten. Something that would soon turn the story around. The morning after I moved out, I still hoped Derek would call. Maybe he was overwhelmed. Maybe someone advised him wrongly. But as hours turned to days, it became clear. He wasn't confused. He was deliberate. He had made a choice, and that choice did not include me. By the third day, my phone number was blocked. Every time I tried to reach him, the call failed. The joint bank account we shared had disappeared from my app. I called the bank, and they told me I'd been removed. My card stopped working. I had nothing in my personal account except a few $100s. I was stunned. This was someone I had cooked for, prayed with, and stood by during hard years. He didn't just want a divorce. He wanted me erased. Then came the photo. It started with a post on his new Instagram page, one I hadn't seen before. Derek standing in front of a red sports car, holding a bottle of champagne. And next to him was a woman I had never seen before, posing like she had always been by his side. The caption said, "From struggle to shining. Cheers to fresh starts." I couldn't believe what I was seeing. He hadn't just left me, he had replaced me. I kept scrolling, unable to stop. Each photo felt like a slap. Private jets, designer clothes, fancy restaurants, and always she was there, holding his hand, laughing, smiling in the same living room that used to be mine, the same kitchen I had made our anniversary meals in. He had brought her into our house. My toothbrush was probably still in that bathroom, and now someone else was sleeping in our bed. Friends started messaging me with screenshots. One even asked, "Did you two separate? He's all over the place with this new girl." I didn't know how to respond. I didn't want pity. I wanted answers. How could someone throw away 7 years without a word? I sat on my friend's couch that night, numb. I looked around and realized I had nothing. No home, no money, no way to contact the man who once said I was his world. And yet even in all that darkness, a strange calm settled in my chest. He thought I was powerless, that I'd stay silent, but he'd forgotten one thing, and soon he would regret it. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Derek's smile the morning he told me he'd won. That same smile had been a mask, hiding a betrayal already in motion. My heart ached, my mind raced, and I felt like I was sinking. But in the quiet of that sleepless night, a memory surfaced. Sharp, clear, and unexpected. It was from years ago, just before our wedding. Derek had been the one to bring it up. "It's just to be safe," he said. "You don't have any major assets, and I need to protect what I've built." At the time, he didn't have much either, but he'd always been careful with money. I was hurt that he didn't trust me fully, but I signed the prenup because I loved him and didn't think we'd ever need it. We had laughed after signing it, calling it a just-in-case thing we'd probably never look at again. But now, just in case had arrived. I dug through my suitcase, pulled out my old file folder, and there it was. The original copy. I sat at the table, rereading it slowly, and that's when I found it. A clause, tucked near the bottom, written in the exact legal language Derek insisted on back then. It said if either party filed for divorce within 30 days of acquiring significant financial gain, all assets acquired during that time would be considered marital property. No exceptions. My hands trembled. Derek had won the lottery and filed for divorce just 2 days later. That clause changed everything. He had assumed the prenup protected him. He had forgotten the part he had added to guard against gold diggers trying to take advantage of sudden wealth. Ironically, it now worked in my favor. I sat back in the chair, overwhelmed but strangely relieved. He had tried to cut me off, humiliate me, and move on like I never mattered. But in his rush to celebrate, he had forgotten the very document he believed would save him from people like me, when I had never been that kind of person to begin with. This time, I had something he didn't expect. Proof, legally binding and signed by both of us. I wasn't going to beg or chase after him. I had no interest in revenge through words. I just needed the right lawyer and a plan. Derek thought he was done with me, but the game had only just begun. The next morning, I gathered the prenup, tucked it into a folder, and walked into the office of a divorce attorney a friend had recommended. Her name was Helen, a calm, sharp woman, with silver-streaked hair and eyes that didn't miss a thing. I sat across from her in a quiet room filled with books and framed degrees, my hands clutching the folder like it was my only shield. I explained everything, from the sudden lottery win to the changed locks, and the mystery woman now living in my home. Helen listened without interrupting, taking notes and nodding occasionally. When I handed her the prenup, she adjusted her glasses and read silently. Minutes passed. Then she looked up, a slow smile forming. "Well," she said, tapping the page, "this changes things." She pointed to the clause I'd found, clear as daylight. "This line right here," she said, "says that if a divorce is filed within 30 days of either party gaining a major financial windfall, all assets gained during that period are considered shared property. That includes lottery winnings." My heart skipped. I had been holding on to hope, but hearing it from a professional made it real. "Did he win before filing?" she asked. "Yes," I answered. "He told me the day he won. The papers arrived 2 days later." She nodded, already flipping through more pages. "Then that clause is in full effect. He may have thought he was protecting himself, but he just handed you the key to everything." I sat in stunned silence. Helen's confidence didn't come from sympathy, it came from knowledge. She explained the steps we'd take: file a formal claim to freeze assets, submit a motion in court using the prenup as evidence, and gather documentation of the timeline. Every step would be legal, precise, and quiet. "He's going to be blindsided," she said. "He thought he cut you out, but legally, you're still half of everything." I left her office that day feeling different. Not angry, not even happy, just strong. The chaos he'd thrown me into had started to settle. Derek's carelessness, his rush to celebrate and erase me, would be the very thing that brought him back to the courtroom. I didn't need to scream or fight publicly. All I had to do was follow the law and watch the consequences catch up with him. I didn't call him. I didn't post anything. I didn't even reply to the people sending me screenshots of Derek's new life. I just watched, quietly, every smiling photo he uploaded, every flashy purchase he made, every reckless move. I saved it, because I wasn't reacting anymore. I was preparing. He thought I'd crawl away in shame, that I'd cry myself to sleep while he toasted to freedom. But I wasn't broken. I was focused. With Helen's help, I began gathering everything we'd need. I went through every text, email, and calendar entry. I dug out receipts, flight bookings, timestamps from social media posts. I logged the exact day he cashed the lottery check. Then, I marked the day the divorce papers arrived. The gap between them? 2 days. The clause in the prenup? 30. Helen said, "The more precise we are, the stronger your case." So I became detail-obsessed. I noted everything. Derek's Instagram became a timeline. His downfall, documented by his own hand. A picture of him at the bank. A story of him cheering with friends. Champagne bottle, private jets. Designer shoes on a mystery woman's feet. Geotagged in what used to be our living room. All of it mattered. Meanwhile, I said nothing. No texts. No arguments. Just silence. That was the hardest part. Every instinct wanted me to shout, to confront, to ask him why. But Helen told me, silence is your power right now. And she was right. I moved in with a friend and worked part-time jobs to keep myself afloat. I didn't let anyone know what I was doing behind the scenes. Even when I saw him on the news, smiling like life had handed him the perfect gift, I kept calm. His world looked untouchable, but I knew what was coming. Because while he was burning through money and clinking glasses with people who barely knew him, I was building something solid, a case, a wall of facts and documents he couldn't talk his way out of. There was no drama, no screaming matches or online wars, just quiet steps taken with care. And with each one, I felt something grow inside me. Not revenge, not anger, control. For the first time since the nightmare began, I wasn't surviving. I was planning. He thought I had lost, but he didn't realize. By the time he figured it out, it would already be too late. It happened faster than I expected. Helen filed the legal claim to freeze half of Derek's assets, citing the prenup and the clear violation of the clause. Within a few days, the court approved the temporary freeze, and everything shifted. The media picked up the story almost instantly. Man wins $9 million, wife claims half under prenup clause. Suddenly, I wasn't just the quiet ex he pushed aside. I was a headline. People started talking. Comment sections lit up. Everyone wanted to know how he could forget a clause that important. Some people called me smart. Others said I deserved every penny. But more than anything, they remembered what he did, how he won the jackpot, filed for divorce, and locked me out like I never mattered. Derek didn't see it coming. One moment, he was parading through luxury lounges and posting selfies with champagne. The next, his bank accounts were under legal review, and his face was splashed across news sites, not as a lucky winner, but as the man trying to dump his wife the moment fortune smiled on him. His girlfriend, gone. Her social media disappeared. No more soft launch posts from our old bedroom. No more expensive gifts or dinner stories. She ghosted him like she was never there. His party friends, those who had laughed at his jokes and clinked glasses in celebration, stopped showing up. They didn't want to be associated with someone whose money was now tied up in a legal battle. They moved on to the next rich guy in line. Derek tried to stay confident. He posted once, something vague about people trying to steal your shine. But the comments were brutal. Strangers called him selfish. Some defended me without knowing a single detail. Others just laughed at his carelessness. And through all of it, I said nothing. Not one word public, no interview, no social media jab. I stayed quiet, letting the facts speak louder than I ever could. Helen handled the rest. With the freeze in place, Derek couldn't access or spend any large amounts without court approval. His fantasy life, built on fast money and faster decisions, was now cornered. And all he could do, for the first time, he was the one left alone in silence. And the world, it watched him unravel. Because karma doesn't always scream. It just shows up in the courtroom, holding paperwork with your signature on it. Derek walked into the courtroom like he owned it. Chin up, shoulders back, dressed in his finest suit, like he was there to collect a trophy. He didn't even glance at me properly, just a smug little smirk, like this would be quick and painless for him. I sat beside Helen, my lawyer, calm and silent. I didn't need to put on a show. I already knew what was coming. When the judge entered, the room settled. Derek's lawyer went first, trying to make the whole situation seem ordinary. He claimed our marriage had been on the rocks for a while, and the divorce had nothing to do with Derek's sudden wealth. I kept my face still. Lies were his comfort zone. I had no interest in joining him there. Then Helen stood. She spoke clearly, confidently, like someone who had done this 1,000 times. She didn't waste time with drama. She laid out our facts. The date Derek won the lottery, the date he filed for divorce, the rush to change the locks, the sudden spending, the new girlfriend. Every moment was backed by evidence, screenshots, transaction records, official documents. The courtroom was silent, all eyes fixed on her. Then the judge picked up the prenup. He read it aloud, slowly and firmly. I'll never forget the line. In the event that either party files for divorce within 30 days of acquiring substantial financial gain, said asset shall be treated as joint marital property. Derek froze. His smirk dropped. He leaned over to his lawyer, whispering frantically, confusion painted all over his face. I could see the realization settle in, heavy and uncomfortable. He had signed that document himself, thinking it protected him. He never imagined it would end up protecting me. Helen went on to present the timeline, day by day, action by action. The gap between the lottery win and the divorce filing, just 2 days. The prenup clause required 30. There was no way around it. Derek tried to interrupt, to argue, but the judge held up a hand and told him to wait. The facts were clear. His silence now said more than anything he could have shouted. I didn't say a word. I just watched. The judge said a final decision would be delivered soon, but we all knew the outcome. Derek came in with confidence, expecting to win, but in the end, the only thing he left with was regret. The courtroom was quiet when the judge returned with the final decision. I sat still, my hands resting in my lap, heart pounding but face calm. Derek looked straight ahead, jaw tight, like he was hoping for a miracle, but no miracle came. The judge's voice was steady as he delivered the ruling. I was officially entitled to half of the $9 million. The prenup clause stood firm, undeniable and clear. Derek had filed too soon after his win, thinking he could outsmart both the law and me. But facts didn't bend to his ego. Then came the part he didn't expect. The judge addressed the way I had been kicked out of our home without warning, locked out with nowhere to go. He mentioned the public posts Derek had made, ones that painted me as bitter, greedy and unwanted. Screenshots we submitted had shown how personal his attacks were. They weren't just mean, they were cruel and deliberate. Because of that, the court awarded me additional compensation for emotional harm, a separate amount. Derek's face turned pale. It wasn't just about splitting money anymore. Now he was being held responsible for how he treated me in those chaotic days. The silence in the room felt heavy. He shifted in his seat, trying to maintain what little pride he had left. But I could see the cracks. His lawyer didn't speak. There was nothing left to argue. As I stood to leave, I didn't look back at him. I didn't need to. This wasn't about revenge in the way people think. Shouting, pointing, screaming, "I told you so." No, this was justice. Quiet, firm, and complete. What he did to me couldn't be undone. The betrayal, the public embarrassment, the heartbreak, it all left marks. But now, the court had spoken, and I walked out not just with my share of the winnings, but with dignity intact. Outside, the reporters waited. I didn't stop for interviews. I just smiled politely and kept walking. I had no interest in reliving the pain on camera. What mattered most was already done. Derek thought he could erase me from the picture. Instead, I became the part of the story no one would forget. With $4.5 million now rightfully mine, I didn't rush into luxury or revenge. I took a breath, stepped back, and asked myself what I truly wanted. For years, I had been the quiet supporter, standing in the background while Derek chased his next big thing. Now, it was my turn, not to compete, but to create a life that felt whole. I bought a modest but beautiful home in a quiet part of town. Nothing flashy, just peaceful. A space that felt safe. I decorated it exactly how I liked, every corner reflecting who I was and what I had overcome. There was no trace of my old life there, and I liked it that way. Next, I focused on something I'd dreamed of for years, opening my own wellness cafe. I had always wanted a space where people could breathe, heal, and feel heard, things I once longed for in my marriage. Within months, the cafe opened its doors. Warm lights, calming music, handwritten menus. It became more than a business. It became my fresh start. The irony came when a few of Derek's old party friends applied for jobs. I recognized the names but said nothing. I hired them based on merit, not memory. They worked hard, and I treated them with respect. I didn't need to remind anyone of what happened. My presence was enough. People began to notice me, not as the woman who was left, but as someone who had quietly risen. I didn't post dramatic messages online. I didn't throw shade. My story was told through my actions, steady, honest, and full of growth. There were hard days, of course. Nights when the past crept in, when the silence in my new home felt too loud. But those moments never stayed long. I had purpose now, and peace I never expected. I never reached out to Derek, never answered his messages when he eventually tried to check in. There was nothing left to say. My success didn't come from trying to hurt him back. It came from choosing to heal, to rise on my own terms. This time, the life I was building wasn't tied to anyone's shadow. It was mine, and it was just beginning. I sat down one quiet evening, pen in hand, and wrote the letter I knew I'd never send. It wasn't about anger anymore. It was about letting go. "Thank you," I began. Not sarcastically, but honestly. "Thank you for showing me who you truly were, for pulling the curtain so completely that I could no longer pretend." I thanked him for the heartbreak, for the silence, for pushing me out of the life I thought we were building. Because in doing so, he set me free. I told him how betrayal didn't break me. It revealed my strength. I had found a version of myself I never knew existed, a woman who could rise without screaming, fight without bitterness, and heal without revenge. I ended the letter with a truth I hadn't spoken out loud. I don't hate you. I just no longer need you in my story. Then I folded the letter, placed it in a drawer, and walked away. It wasn't for him. It was for me. A quiet ending to a loud chapter. And in that stillness I found peace. Not because he gave it to me, but because I chose it for myself. Do you think Derek truly believed he could get away with everything without consequences? Or do you think he ever regretted how he treated Jenna in the end? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective really matters. And if you enjoy powerful stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new one.